And I do have 3 questions, but after that we can all ask questions together.
Thank you so much. I just want to begin by thanking the team that put this all together from Natives in STEM. It's been an honor to be able to work together in partnership. This is really what we envision for the Native American Cultural Centers, providing access to opportunities to connect and to be in community. So thank you so very much. Appreciate it. Miigwech for being here today. Bonjour. Ishgokwe. And Desnakas Bagwadaman Ottawa Indow. My name is Skye Howell, and I'm Heron Band Potawatomi and Grand River Band Ottawa from the Great Lakes region. I have been separated from my family, culture, and community for the majority of my adult life, and I am so grateful to have found an intertribal community here in Austin that has helped to ground me, to help me to reconnect, and thankfully my dad and I finally met all of our family members about 3 years ago, but it's been a journey for us. And so our community center, our cultural center is a space for connecting, it's a space for healing, and part of that healing happens in a circle. So we are here to share our common knowledge, our experience, and our wisdom today, and that doesn't happen with just one person. So thank you all for being here, and we're excited to have this conversation.
Sio Naga, Wesa Gadusi, Dakwado, Chi Chalagi, Naragi Janela. So, hi y'all, my name is Rachel Hill. I'm a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. I think this is the sign for Cherokee. I think it's because of, I'd like to say it's because we're smiling or we're eating corn, or maybe it's because of the cheekbones, I don't know. But I'm here as a, not only on behalf of our Central Texas Cherokee Township, but as a PhD student for at the University of Texas at Austin, and as a proud representative of our Native American Indigenous Studies program there at the university. I'm a first generation college student, raised by a very proud Cherokee mother, so I'm excited to have a conversation with y'all today.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Alexia. I'm of Indigenous and Hakka Taiwanese descent. My grandma's side of the family is from the Howell tribe. And I'm also the co-founder of Start Empowerment. We are a nonprofit based here in Austin, and we work with youth from East Austin on climate justice education and really incorporating different traditional ecologies and knowledge and centering that in our advocacy for a more just and sustainable future.
Great, and I forgot to add that I'm from the Nawa group, and my father is here. I'd like to acknowledge him as well. And this isn't a deep training on Native knowledge, but I did want to bring my family here to represent our heritage. And we're finally growing in our knowledge of that, and this is our first gathering here today. We want to talk about STEM and the growth of STEM in schools in the area. And of course we used to separate things like science and technology, and now we're trying to bring them together. And I would like to know more about what your views are on where we're at with STEM right now.
I know for me, as a parent of a student in Austin ISD, one thing I found is that there's a very big lack of culturally responsive curriculum. And so being connected with the Native American Cultural Center has allowed us to work to create a school to college and career pipeline. And we create curriculum developed by Indigenous instructional designers. And so this is a partnership with Austin ISD, with the Native American Indigenous Studies program, with interns from UT, and with the Central Texas folks in our community who are working together to make sure that we're represented and not just fixed in the past. And so one thing that we've done is create a curriculum for 5th graders, and it's TEKS aligned. It's got CLI strategies as well, so it's an innovative curriculum, and it's something that we offered as a pilot and paid teachers to be able to give us some feedback on so that we can really be able to integrate this into the curriculum on a large scale basis. And so now we're on year 2, we're on 6th grade, and we've gotten funding from Humanities Texas and Texas Commission of the Arts to be able to continue to build out this curriculum. But again, dismantling the stereotype of Native people being relegated to the past and looking at Indigenous technologies as something that has been here since time immemorial and is still utilized today. And so we've got some activities that we're going to share later on this evening with you all. We also have that curriculum available. We want it in the hands of educators, and we're here to help adapt that curriculum and come up with great ideas for continuing that, because our students deserve to have culturally relevant curriculum that is aligned with STEM.
Yeah, and I suppose following Skye's response, there's something interesting about especially science and technology, the relationship between the two of those, but also their relationship with the Indigenous, and the illusion almost that science and technologies started at a specific time, a short time ago, not a long time, as compared to what we know of the fact that Indigenous folks have always been participating in efforts around science and technology, and it hasn't been a linear, long trajectory. It's been circular, and not only that, it's not something that is relegated to a specific area. It's not put over there in a box. It doesn't happen in a room that we're not in. It happens outside with us, with our practices and with our community, as much as it happens in a lab or at a computer. That's just an interest. I always find it so interesting to think of, when did science and technology start? It wasn't with a settler colonial project. We predate that quite a bit.
Yeah, and building off of that, I feel like for me, you know, as a kid going to school in Austin and also learning things from my mom at home, I always felt like culture and STEM were very separated, even though my mom practiced a lot of traditional plant medicine. It felt like that was just like random spiritual stuff that wasn't real science. And for me, it really wasn't until college that I understood that Indigenous science and traditional science is science. And also that actually what we see and know as Western science, a lot of it is knowledge extracted from Indigenous communities from all over the world, right? Knowledge that was produced by living in relationship to the land. And I particularly work in the climate space, and a lot of traditional climate education just focuses on understanding global warming, but I think we really have to move beyond that to understand how people have lived sustainably with the earth, and Indigenous people from across the world have done that, you know, since time immemorial. And so it's really important that we incorporate those knowledge systems to look at the solutions for the future going forward.
And I'd like to answer with my own experience growing up. It was all there, but I didn't see it. And I'd like to learn more now. So, and I'd like to talk specifically about matriarchy. If we have these matriarchy traditions, then how will that influence STEM?
I think that something so important about the matriarchy as well is, I mean, very similar to the space that we're in now, holding that and opening the space to, not for care and for nuance and for multiple voices to be contributing. I do quite a bit of, I call myself a lens-led researcher. I work quite a bit with photography and different photographic technologies and practices. And along those lines, photography doesn't follow a linear trajectory, technologically speaking. We have the camera obscura, that's this old technology practice, but it wasn't until the 1800s that we get inventions along the lines of a daguerreotype, the cyanotype, which I have examples of in the other room, different technological advancements, kinds of things. So I think that one of the best things about a matriarchy is recognizing that multiple voices and multiple perspectives can be a part of the conversation, and that it builds capacity. And I think it's important to recognize too that with that advancement, just sort of the dual-edged nature of care, that care also sometimes, has the space for pain and for grief with it as well. And so matriarchy recognizing that advancement sometimes also requires a couple back steps too, and that we have a responsibility to that as well.
I like how you talked about care, because I think, that's what I really see as well, is care and reciprocity, and not necessarily this Western framework of like, we're just trying to advance ourselves, or we're trying to like extract knowledge, or we're trying to, get published or discover something new, because science should really be about how do we build community, how do we survive, how do we live, and how do we love, and it should be utilized for those purposes instead of like more traditionally like as a career or just curiosity. It should really be about community, and it really belongs to everyone.
And I think building on that, the individualistic nature, right, of that quest and that conquering and that colonization perspective, matriarchy for our Indigenous cultures and communities has been the leadership of our communities, and so that collectivist nature, that we all have a space and a place for our gifts to be shared, that our knowledge is valued, and that everyone, has something special to offer. And I think even more so thinking about the multi-generational nature of that, and so there is a place for, everyone in the circle and everyone in the community to take part, to belong and to take care of each other. And so it's a responsibility that we have to each other, and that's very important, and that's something that's the only way that we're going to survive.
That's right. And those are beautiful comments. I grew up with my father. We're both deaf, and I grew up seeing my mother as a leader. She ran everything. She would coordinate food decisions with us, of course, and my dad and her would work together. He earned money, and I saw them work as a team, and my dad had an old 8mm camera, and the videos really show that female leadership. My mom was driving things, and I grew up in New Mexico, and we have people here. You can see the symbol, and that it shows the birth process, young age and old age, and that cycle. And a woman has the entire cycle present in the womb. It's a symbol of a circle, and I think that's a really strong matriarchal symbol. And so I love seeing those films and seeing the way that women can lead and be that caretaker, be that medicine, and it will make a huge difference if we have more matriarchal leadership compared to the system that we're under now. Does anyone want to add anything more about that before we move on to the next question?
Just like a real life example as well of like the matriarchy in action, I would say, because the Cherokee, we're matriarchal, which I love, especially being married to a Cherokee husband who really knows his place. I love him, kind of a thing. But when we're talking about, I'm joking, he's kind of a thing. Because again, matriarchy is not, when we talk about the matriarchy, it's not a foil to the patriarchy in the sense that it's like now men have no say and they're not allowed, and we only stick to a certain binary kind of a thing. It's not the answer. As we've been saying, it's the involvement. And so, for instance, I do a lot of Three Sisters heirloom corn growing, the Central Texas Cherokee Township. We do a lot of that with community partners, both with Native American Cultural Center, St. Edward's University, a few out here, and it's hot in Texas. Our heirloom seeds from North Carolina, they don't grow out here. It's hot, it's dry and stuff. So, but we look to our Three Sisters growing, And not only that, we grow in this mounded system. That can sound silly, but these mounds, when we're talking about matriarchy and the role of community as a living thing and stuff, instead of trying to grow our heirloom corn in a monocrop in the ground with no companion, no support, or anything like that, we've grown Three Sisters the traditional Cherokee way, the mounded system, the companion planting, the selu, the duya, the iya, the corn, the beans, the squash, they're all together. And they're growing really well. We have this Cherokee story that, you know, the Creator gave us corn, Unetlana, he gave us corn and said, if you take care of this, it will take care of you. And that can sound silly, but we started growing corn about 4 years ago out here, and with the first corn cobs were the tiniest, little, stinkiest, tiny things. And today, our mounds have they've expanded, and our corn is so healthy. And we can share it with our community. It's in the seed bank at the Wildflower Center. It's in the ground at the Cultural Center. It's in the bellies of our communities. And I think that is really reflective of the matriarchal model of people working together, not only people, but are more than human, the land as well as inherently being a part of that process of making the world livable through processes with science, technology, engineering, kind of a thing. Of course, we try to grow as organic as possible, y'all, but sometimes we need a little bit of that soil science or that engineering to help us. We have 6 inches of soil out here. How do we make it work, kind of a thing, you know? It's by being able to combine the stream, not just the stem, the stream of things to flow through that garden and flow through that community life.
Is it pretty tasty?
Oh, it's so good. We do nixtamalization, it makes good grits, it's great. So community tastes lovely. Matriarchy is the yummiest meal.
I just want to point out, or say something real quick. I grew up in Florida, so a little bit different crops. I thought my mom was into voodoo because she would get these avocado seeds and stick toothpicks in them and put them in the window. We had this window full of these voodoo things, and they're growing and they're making trees. And I didn't realize my mom was so smart, and she was the person that taught me about science because she knew chemicals, and she'd say, oh, you'd say, oh, this hurts, and she'd say, oh, you need some vitamin this, or orange juice, or this. Or she would know exactly what you needed for whatever was wrong. And, you know, and yes, plants. There was a plant that grew in our backyard. It was a weed or something, but she said, no, that's not a weed. You crush the leaves of that and put it on an open wound, it stops bleeding. And I was like, how do you know that, right? I mean, those are the things that I'd say traditionally moms, but I keep that knowledge now, and I gave that to my son, and I gave him one of those plants, and I said, grow this plant, you're gonna need it someday. And an aloe plant, we have aloe, it's called epazote, if anybody cares to know. It's comes from Mexico. But all those things that we've inherited from our matriarchy side, and then we pass along to our kids, I think that's what's important, is keeping that going.
Question that I have for all of you. So we have non-native people here. How do we make good allyship with them? What do we need to expose people to, especially through STEM education, to have a better future?
I think one thing that stands out to me is in advocating, you know, as I said, I'm a parent of a AST student, but from the time he was in pre-K, I went to teachers and I said, you know, what are you doing for Native American Heritage Month? How are you teaching Thanksgiving? Those types of things. And it was very clear that there was a disconnect from the teachers who were not Native, which were all of my son's teachers, and what resources were available. I pushed resources out to the school district as a parent. I, you know, worked tirelessly and said, hey, use this resource, you know, different things like that. And eventually just got exasperated, and that's where the grant writing to be able to create curriculum came from. And then it was like an aha moment. We should have been the ones designing the curriculum to begin with. And so I think for folks who are looking to be good allies, part of that is partnering with the Native community to make sure that you have, when you're hiring on your team and you need Native perspectives, hire Native people. You know, make sure that we're the ones that are telling the story. There are so many amazing, I mean, just in the last 5 years even, the curriculum that's available, the books that are available. I mean, my son has access to so many books that are by Native authors. You know, when I was growing up, it really wasn't the case. It wasn't widely promoted or accessible, but there's no excuse to not have that partnership and to not promote Native-owned businesses, Native-owned, you know, again, don't co-opt the ideas, but really, you know, be in partnership and be in collaboration, and pay Native folks for their time. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, it's such a good question. I think there's something to be said about the meeting of people, about meeting the Indigenous where they're at. And I would honestly say too, self-reflexivity is such a powerful tool. Not only as individuals, but as like when we're engaging projects or when we're working for institutions, to be reflexive of what is the actual goal and why am I coming to these people to work with them? Am I wanting to uplift the Indigenous people I'm working with? Am I wanting to uplift the land? Or is there an ulterior motive to that? So really understanding what is the goal? What are we doing here? I think intentionality is really so important when it comes to practice, not only with community, but individually speaking. So really understanding the intention behind the project or the goal, the collaboration, but more than that, allowing the Indigenous people to define that. There's a term called rhetorical sovereignty, we just spoke on it, of this idea that allowing Indigenous people to say what they want, how they want, when they want, letting us say who we are, assert our own, establish our own selves. And I think that's just, again, such a good model. And I think it goes back, not to bring up corn growing again and the matriarchy or whatever again, but the land told us what it wanted. The plants told us what it wanted. That said, we're thirsty. We need nitrogen. We need these things and stuff like that. So again, I think that's such a understanding what is the goal here. For me, when it was growing, I was like, I'm not trying to have the prettiest garden and stuff. I just want to make sure this genetic stock works. I want my Cherokee corn, kind of a thing. And in the same way, when we go to work with other Indigenous peoples, myself included as a Cherokee, you know, I'm born in Texas. The Cherokee were in this land before it was known as Texas, before the Spanish were here, and things like that. But I'm also very well aware that there are other Indigenous peoples here. So that requires me to go to them as well. The work is never done, and that can sound so heavy, but it's really a joyful thing. That it's like how beautiful that we have so many opportunities to collaborate in such different ways. It's understanding where we can meet each other in those moments.
Yeah, I think echoing on that, for me, listening is so important, and I think it sounds basic, but it's actually harder than it seems. And you know, for me, I also grew up in Austin, but I'm not originally from here, and I'm also not from the villages that my grandparents are from. And so it was really important for me to, you know, ask my grandparents questions and to listen to them and learn from their lived experiences, and also learn from the Indigenous people from this land in Central Texas. And know how I can support them and how I can make those connections, and know that all our struggles are connected, even with non-Indigenous people. And in the climate movement, we talk a lot about, like, we need everyone involved to tackle this crisis, but the leadership needs to come from Indigenous people and Black people and people of color, you know, who have lived sustainably with the land, who have the solutions, who are also most directly impacted. And so I think really listening and collaborating and a lot of self-reflection to build that community, and I think it's doable, and it is what we need. We need diverse people coming together, and we need multicultural collaboration, but done in a really respectful way.
I agree with everything that you all said about diversity, about working with different people and different skills. And even within our Native Indigenous groups, we have so many different tribes represented different languages, different ways of thinking, different cultures, and we should take advantage of that and learn from each person. You know, there's no uniformity here. We are all beautiful with our colors, you know, without living in a black and white world. So I think it does come down to respect, to valuing one another, to working in solidarity with each other. That's vital, to have those connections. Growing up in a non-native space in the education system, I always asked myself, where is my indigeneity? And then I found out, okay, I have that history, and I brought it to the forefront so that I could see it. But before it was just something inside. But I want to be able to work outside with other people and find whose skills can come together and become a circle of sharing those skills. And as the world turns, we rotate around the sun, we have to find ways to work together, and we can start right here. And so today's event is not something that is an end in itself, it's something that will keep going. And we're also going to have and Skye over here, we're working together on this project from garden to feast, and it will happen next spring. We invite you all to work with us here on this project.
Allies, and I think just like being in right relations. A lot of times it's like an organization, I think it was really kitschy about 5 years ago to have a land acknowledgement. But like, what was the point? You know, who is that for, right? It's not for us. But how do we go beyond that land acknowledgement? And so something that we do at the Cultural Center is we offer educational workshops for organizations, for teachers, for allies, for folks that are really wanting to go beyond their land acknowledgement and to be in right relations with our community. And so there's ways of thinking through that. You don't have to just kind of be stuck there and you know, just feel like I can't do anything right. I think it's, you know, how do we work together to think through, again, going back to like what your goal is, and how do we be in right relationship? That's really critical.
I had a comment. So my background is science and computer science for 50 years. After I retired, I taught at Annie Pearl teaching STEM scouts, teaching STEM experiments, and it was a big change for me, dealing with the kids. But what I sort of intuitively knew was to get the kids to have ownership of the experiments. So once a month, the scouts would send me this box full of equipment, and they had laid out exactly what the experiment should be. And what I found is if I lightened that up a little bit and let the kids be creative, tried to get them to take ownership of the experiments rather than looking at me as a teacher, that they, you know, were discovering things in doing that. And I think that ownership is important. And when I, you know, walk around the room that Skye has put together here, all of these things that the kids can work on are all STEM, regardless of the beading, that kind of thing, is a way of thinking. And I think with Indigenous people, there's an ownership there that's a natural ownership, and people like Skye and others can own that, help the kids to own that. Whereas teaching at Annie Pearl, it was a mixture of different kids from different backgrounds. And a lot of times it was just trying to get the kids that really weren't involved at all, get them to find something, that even if it was silly, you know, something that they could take ownership of.
Yeah, I think there's something beautiful about recognizing that learning and education is you're not in a linear relationship with. It's long term. We can always be learning, and also that one of the most sacred relationships is between I think at least, is between the student and the teacher. And knowing that the teacher doesn't have to be a hierarchical, smarter, more powerful, older, male kind of a thing, you know. We can find that sacredness between us.
Yeah, I'm open to anyone asking any questions, so please.
Just picking up on the STEM Scout, I was a scout leader for 20 years. We taught the scouts to teach the other scouts. You just learned something, now go teach somebody else. And that actually enforces the learning. So you're right, you don't have to be the teacher that you see on TV or whatever. Another student can teach somebody, right? And that really helps everybody. It makes everybody grow.
Something beautiful that we see here at the Cultural Center, every week we have a drop-in class. You're all invited to come, and it's just open. You can sew, you can feed, you can just come and hang out. You can play native games. Usually Doug, Rachel are out there doing the atlat and being able to do stickball or using the blowgun. We have finger weaving. You can come with a craft that you're already doing, or you can come having no idea, never used a sewing machine, never experienced a bead loom or any of that. And what we found is that it started with a core group, about like 4 to 6 of us, and then we opened it up to the public. Now we have anywhere between 30 to 40 folks that are showing up. There's always new folks. It's all ages. Our youngest is 1, or maybe 1.5. And
She's top one.
yeah, and we have our elders, who have been a part of our family for, so long, sharing wisdom and sharing what they've learned. We call it therapeutic threads, and shout out to Nan Blessingame. She couldn't be here tonight, but she's really that model, that example of being a powerful leader in our community who has so patiently and generously shared her skills and taught all of us how to sew, how to make our own regalia, how to dance and enter the powwow circle, all of these things that maybe we didn't have the opportunity to grow up with and learn, and that generosity of spirit and that reciprocity that happens. I mean, we find, you may not know how to thread a sewing machine, but if you just know how to lay the ribbons down, right? Like, everyone's teaching everyone what little bit that we might know to get somebody else to continue on. And it's just this beautiful, and like you said, a circular way of learning. We never know who's gonna come through the door, and we never know what we're gonna be able to teach and share with each other. And I just wanna give a shout out to Ashley, who made that beautiful ribbon skirt just last night. First time making a ribbon skirt, isn't it beautiful?
What days did you set the?
On Wednesday, from
Wednesdays?
4 to 7 here over there in the main classrooms. Yeah, and so we have everything that you need. We've got the sewing machines, we've got the beading supplies. Thanks to a generous donation that Daryl just made, we have fringe for shawls, so we'll be making some shawls. Got lots of beads and just about anything that you could need. Just maybe bring some fabric with you.
Yeah, I did come Wednesday and made some earrings of beads, and I realized there's a lot of math involved. It's very geometric, actually. I found myself learning some math. And I learned I needed some more patience. I wanted to talk to people, but I had to focus on this art, so I learned a lot.
Sewing, same thing. You gotta have the measurements right, or it's not gonna work out.
Games is physics.
That's so cool. I have a question about the curriculum that you talked about. How my son is also in AISD. He went to Kiker Elementary, and I had a friend there who, was Native American and who is Native American, and was, thinking along the same lines. They don't do much for the Heritage Month, and there is not curriculum where teachers are not equipped or trained to teach with sensitivity about the topics. So did you all have a curriculum now?
So we do, we have 5th grade, and again, it's TEKS aligned, and so it's focused on force, motion, and energy, and looking at like what are the mechanics behind, again, from the atlat all the way to, that fun thing that you do with your dog where you throw the tennis ball, the check it thing, right? And so it's like just illustrates these different examples. But what we've done is we've made a teacher guide to help prepare them for, if they're non-native, like you can just, you get this curriculum in your hands. We have a training orientation video if they would like to watch it, but we also have a teacher guide for possibilities of disrupting stereotypes that might come up. You know, what do you do with these different scenarios, so that way folks feel comfortable. They don't have to have gone through some sort of a really robust training, but we do create all of those guides, and we also have resources to extend the curriculum, to adapt
So
the
it is
curriculum.
available through the district to all AISD teachers?
So that's something we're working on. It's not as accessible as we'd like it to be because it's just gotten piloted. And so now we're piloting the 6th grade, but I am happy to share it with you, to share it with
Yeah.
that teacher, and connect them in so that they can have access to it.
That'd be great.
Yes, and it's it's also available in English and Spanish. And so it's 2 lessons in English language arts, and then 2 lessons in STEM. So STEM focus for the 5th grade level, and then the one for 6th grade is 2 lessons in English language arts, 3 lessons in social studies. It's on trade routes.
Cool.
And
I don't know
again,
if your paths crossed with Amy Freeman.
Yes. Yes.
That's the friend I was referring to. Yeah.
she helped us to create that guide
Yeah,
for teachers.
She was, because I did some work with culturally responsive teaching for NASA, so we had a conversation, but, yeah.
She's amazing, and she helped us give that insight, you know, from the perspective of someone who's not native.
Yeah.
How do we,
Mhm.
you know, make sure that teachers feel like they can teach this and feel ready and like they have the tools they need?
She's a champion.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
We wanna make sure that AISD is paying for that curriculum as well.
Yeah.
Because I know at Texas School for the Deaf, it's a state school, and they're very strict with finger spelling, with that kind of thing, they're very strict with, their diversity things. So they cannot have anything with Native American Heritage Month, Black History Month, anything like that. So because it's a state-run school, they have these new rules. And so people have to do it as an after-school program or something optional like that, like the Wednesday nights that we have here. And so with STEMs, we're also working on some curriculum things having to do with food and cooking and native food cultures. And so that's our approach now, is to encourage people to do things outside of school when it becomes impossible to do them in school.
Yeah, so with that, what we've done to kind of like do the workaround, our biggest draw is that we are using CLI strategies, and so creative learning strategies it's an initiative that's funded through the district. It's like a magic word for them. It's not something that's red flagged. And then also the TEKS alignment. So making sure it's TEKS aligned then makes it have the green light for teachers to be able to utilize that. And so that's something that we were really intentional about, is making sure that there's not a way for it to get shut down before it even gets out the door by being flagged. And so it is under STEM, right? Not under DEI. And so that's how we've packaged it. As far as paying the bill, Austin ISD is our partner that has us here for a very low cost amount, so we're excited about that. But we wrote grants to pay for this to be able to happen, and so making sure that everyone's compensated for their time was something that was really important, because I cannot tell you how many unpaid hours I've spent with the district trying to just give them things on a silver platter that there was no, there was no integration for a long time. But now we've figured it out and we're hitting the ground running, catching up.
I'll add that for us, one way that we've gotten some curriculum or lessons in, especially with the elementary schools, is sneaking them in like 15-minute activities. My colleague, who unfortunately could not come here, but he is also Indigenous and was an educator for 16 years, and so he has a lot of connections, and so we started befriending all the teachers and just giving them little activities, giving them the lessons, talking to them, doing professional development so that they felt really comfortable adding it in. And oftentimes, sometimes teachers have an extra block, or they have an extra week, or they have an extra 10 minutes where they're trying to fill it in with something, and so we've been able to kind of utilize that time to fill it in with our environmental justice education.
Yeah, we have this little book here. That's her book.
My question was about, you said there's 2 STEM lessons for 5th grade. What are the topics that you guys are covering, and what is the plans to extend? You said you're gonna start on 6th grade. Are you extending beyond that? And is it just gonna be, if you get to high school, is it gonna be cross-curricular snippets that you could put into a biology class, or would there be like full lessons? Like, I was curious about that.
So right now we're just taking like little bite-sized chunks, and we're going up from, so there's some curriculum that happens in 3rd grade, and so we're doing that as kind of a launching pad. We're doing 5th grade, 6th grade, and then we're gonna just move up every year, ideally, if we continue to get that grant funding, or when, I'm gonna say not if, when we get that grant funding, we'll be able to continue on those lessons. And so, you know, in a perfect world, when we get to that point, it'll be integrated, you know, 360, right? Like, it's not just like here and there, but we're just not there yet. As far as high school, there's actually a robust ethnic studies course that we created, and it's been passed through TEIA. It's an innovative course, and there's been a hard fight to do that, and so we're trying to supplement really in that middle school area, and be able to create that content there. And then one thing, I think, Rachel, you were involved with our summer camp. Do you want to share a little bit more of kind of how we've done
Sure.
summer camp after school and things
Yeah,
like that?
so another partnership is through Austin ISD is the summer camp program. So actually going out to where again, meeting people where they're at, going out to the students in the summer camps at Austin ISD locations and hosting games and craft workshops and things like that. And also placing it where, you know, locating it where the students are living and things like that. They're in Texas, and you know, we do a lot of mound builder games and things along those lines. The Caddo here in Texas, we're also mound builders, so being able to plug it in back to state history and different things along those lines. But again, keeping them really active, like living seasonally. That can sound silly, but understanding how people are learning, and I say people in general because, you know, like you were saying, talking to the teachers is and getting them to understand our project is very different than talking to kids who want to throw the ball and then don't want to go get it again afterwards, kind of a thing. So it's been such a beautiful blast though to be out, like to get to go out there with them, and really interesting to see the different Austin ISD locations as well. But so we go and meet them. So through the Native American Cultural Center, they've organized their summer camps, and it's a really amazing thing as well, not only for, like I said, I'm really involved with our Cherokee Township, but again, to have a location where we go to meet specifically for that intention. So an opportunity not only to be involved still in my Cherokee culture, but in the broader goal of what we're trying to do here, which is to share and to educate and to care and to have that space for healing and connection. I think the summer camps are a really awesome job for that as well, because the summer camps too aren't necessarily as grade level separated too. So it's we always think it's really important for not only intergenerational, but even within the childhood aspect. It's really powerful to see, you know, a 15-year-old come and help the 10-year-old learn how to play chunky, kind of a thing, going back to what you were saying. So it's not, it's so lovely to see. It's not giving them a fish or teaching them to fish. It's teaching them to teach others how to fish. So it's a beautiful, again, circular kind of thing. And then we get to go back and see them again when they start school in the fall. So it's fun.
Just another comment, speaking from experience about how things, you know, got momentum at Kuiper, it was through the PTA. So, you know, maybe that's another organization where if it is harder to go through the district, PTAs do hold a lot of power and can influence things that happen at individual schools.
We do have a lot of PTA requests, particularly around Native American Heritage Month. I think every single day of this month we've got, or coming up, we've got a powwow presentation. So just like we do the after school programs in the camp, we're bringing the powwow into schools for students who don't have the opportunity to go out to the powwow. We're also working with the school and with PTAs to be able to fund buses to take kids and families to the powwow. And so that's November the 22nd. Put it on your calendar. Please come out. It's the most fun, and it's the largest one-day powwow in America. And so pretty good time. About 15,000 people come out. It's at the Expo Center. So please make sure to come out. It's going to be a fun time. What's that?
It's a lot of fun. It's
Oh my
amazing.
gosh.
Yep.
There's vendors. We have like 100 vendors in our market. So don't go spend your money for the holidays anywhere but the powwow. So you'll find everything you need.
Just take a minute, sorry. If anybody wants to talk about themselves, tell us who you are, who you work for. If you want to bring anything up, feel free. I'm not going to make everybody go around and say everybody's name.
Well,
Go
we
for
could
it.
maybe just have we could start with just board members, like
Board member?
introduce ourselves. I think I feel comfortable forcing us to do that.
I'm Sorella. I'm a board member, chair, co-chair.
For the Greater Austin STEM ecosystem, yeah.
Greater Austin STEM ecosystem.
Yeah.
So, anybody?
Yeah, I'm Deepika Sangam. I'm also on the board of the Greater Austin STEM ecosystem.
Laura Roy, also on the board of the Greater Austin STEM ecosystem, and I work for the Texas Partnership for Out of School Time. So I'm listening to y'all talking about curriculum and summer camps, and yeah, I'd love to hear more.
I'm Angelina DeRose. I'm on the board as well, communications with Gabriel and Laura. If you want, you can get on our newsletter as well and stay up to date with all the upcoming events that we have. We have networking events happening about every quarter, so you should definitely stay connected with us.
I might force you, Tricia, also to, yeah.
Tricia Berry, Advisory Council for the Greater Austin STEM ecosystem, and Texas Girls Collaborative Project, and UT Austin Women in STEM.
Yeah. And Gabriel is on our board, although he already introduced himself. Yeah. And I'm filming, but I'm Adrian. I'm with the Education Service Center Region 13, but co-lead on the board with Sorella. Yeah. Yeah, who else will go?
If I could put Skye on the spot for a minute, are we gonna have more than one fry bread, or are we gonna have just one fry bread person?
We've got like 4 folks that are gonna be selling fry
The
bread.
lines are always so long. If we have more than one fry bread person.
Are we talking about powwow?
I'm gonna put you in the hot seat, Ken. Can you find us some more fry bread?
There we go.
That's the matriarchy right there.
All right.
I'm sorry, and what's your name?
Oh, Ken McKenzie.
Ken,
I've been coming to the powwow since the very first one. So.
Okay,
And
awesome.
tell us a little bit more about yourself.
What do you
What?
do?
Tell us where they can find you on Tuesday nights at least.
Yeah, I host the only Indigenous radio show that we've got here in the Austin area every Tuesday night. Skye and Nan have been on. Tuesday nights at 6 at 91.7 FM. And we stream live, KOP.org. It's the community station, so we're non-commercial. And we've had an Indian radio show there the whole time that the powwow's been going. I haven't always done it. We've had 3 other people before me, but I'm very proud that it's still on the air. Like I say, I've been with the powwow since the very beginning, and I might have missed 1 or 2 years, but it's been really satisfying to see it grow and to have it at the Expo Center, even when we lost our original home, which was in Sunset Valley at the AISD facility, the Tony Berger facility. So, yep, we're still going. Hope to see you all come out and have a good time with us. I'm also a gourd dancer, so I'll be one of the early ones out on the dance floor as well. Brett, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's a great segue. Ken, about 7 years ago, I took 15 kids from Zavala to the Howell, and that was the first time I actually had fried bread, and it was awesome. So for 4 years, I was the director of the Primetime After School program at Austin ISD. After that, I was the director of school programs for Austin ISD, and now I'm the director of student support services and operations. And so one of the people on my team you might know is David Torres. And so I just wanted to be here in lieu and just see how I can learn more and hopefully get some fried bread this year.
Without standing in line for an hour and a half. Yeah, we got to lean on our fried bread vendors. We've got some.
I don't want to pass over your father, Gabriel. I'd like you to introduce yourself.
Yeah,
Maybe
this is my
you can
dad
share.
over here. You want to say something about yourself, where you're from, anything like that? Really, I'm grateful for my mother. I'm grateful for my grandfather that they taught me all about culture. That they taught me about the dental club, that there were labs where I was able to learn, and I was able to meet and marry my wife, and we lived in El Paso, Texas, where I worked, and there was a business that had shut down, and I was able to buy it and have a dental lab there. It was very successful. And we moved to Mexico. It didn't work out, and so we moved to the United States. But it was hard to learn English. I tried and I tried, but finally we were able to live here, but without learning English. And we ended up moving to Santa Fe, New Mexico, where we had 4 children. They were all deaf, including Gabe here. And we moved back to El Paso, where I retired. And then I've been here in Austin ever since for 17 years. And I love to collaborate with people with the Indigenous community and Indigenous Mexican community, and to discuss how to make a better future for everyone. So thank you.
I'll go next because I'm from El Paso. So you want the best bread in the world, it's on the Tiwa Reservation. And the lady who made bread for dozens of years, she just died this past year, so they're trying to find someone to replace her. But I remember going to Sleta del Sur, which is the oldest Catholic church in the United States. It's over 400 years old, and I'd go there for feast days, for masses. I'm Italian and white. My mom is white. My father came from Italy. And I grew up in El Paso, in Ruidoso, in Mescalero, New Mexico, with the Mescalero Apache. So my whole existence has been around indigenous populations and native, and I've always been considered other. Because in El Paso, you were either Mexican or other. And I had a black friend, and we were both in the same category. We were other. And then when I moved to New Mexico with the Mescalero, I was getting, I said, well, I'm an Italian. And like, well, it doesn't count. We treat our dogs better than we treat NIs, and we eat our dogs. So I was 9 years old thinking the Indians were going to eat me. But we ended up befriending each other because I was on the set of Grizzly Adams, and Nakoma, his name is Don Shanks. He played a great Native American on Grizzly Adams, and he came into our restaurant because I invited him in, and the whole crew came every week that they were filming in Ruidoso, and so that kind of got me on the good side of the Mescalero. But my name is Joe Olivieri. I'm with Pittsco Education, and I work with the BIA and BIE in all 50 states with the 576 federally recognized tribes, and then I work in Texas. I live here in Texas, but we've been a STEM company for over 50 years. And we're a curriculum company, so we write all the curriculum. We have preschool through 16, and we have out of school. So I'll give you my card. We do free workshops on a lot of things, but it's focused on hands-on activities where we make STEM and science and technology and robotics and coding, computer science all relevant because the kids actually get to do with their hands. And the native population of this country have always worked with their hands, and it just makes sense when you use your hands instead of everything being in theory or computerized. So huge advocate for that.
I'm Daryl Welk. I'm not Native American. I grew up Mennonite in Kansas. I married my wife in 1969. She was part Kiowa, part Chickasaw. Her mother grew up in Oklahoma. And so I became part of the Native American community in Wichita, and then we moved to Austin in '84. And so I've been involved with Ken and the people who started the powwow. 1991 was the first one. And it's been following Barbara, my wife, following her around and inhaling the Native American community. So I sort of know pieces of it. My wife passed away about 3 months ago. So now I'm on my own. And so I'm realizing what I don't know. And so I'm trying to catch up with that again. I'm lucky tonight because I'm involved with Native Americans, but also I've been to some of the STEM meetings. I've been interested in STEM. So it was just coincidence that this all came together tonight. And I'm just looking forward to seeing what we can do with the Cultural Center here and with STEM in general. I'm an AI person. I've been doing research in AI for 40 years. And so I'm familiar with the new tools, and there's a whole bunch of issues that come up with AI about how little kids are going to be thinking. And I have no idea how that impacts some of the things we talked about tonight. Things are going to change.
I think I'll go next, since I guess I'll finish off the site. My name is Walter Romanko. I'm with Central Texas Discover Engineering, and we're a group kind of like you guys, but we go into schools, enthuse kids about STEM, and we're looking for volunteers to help spread the word. I guess my only Indian story, Native American story is that my wife's dad, they thought he was a Cherokee for a long time. And one of my brothers-in-law did an extensive family search and found out that he wasn't. So that's my own. That's right.
Well, my name is Edward Farinas, and I work for HTL Think Forward. We're a nonprofit that brings curriculum into school. In fact, Pits Go, we usually straw rockets. But we have a lot of different programs, and right now we're actually expanding into some private schools, which gives us more flexibility in some of the curriculum that we teach. So Skye, I'm gonna have to reach out to you about that. And Daryl and I already said that we're gonna have a couple interesting conversations about AI and the way that that affects children and the way that they think. I have just always been an admirer of just Native American culture. I was really lucky to go to schools that were very diverse growing up in Houston, and we always got to celebrate that. You know, people bringing in projects and crafts like Rachel was saying, and it's always been a wonderful experience kind of thinking about harmony and how that really even is cyclical in terms of technology. And also the matriarchy, because I myself am Filipino, and you know, it's not necessarily a matriarchal society, but women are granted a lot of authority. And I'm sure a lot of that comes from tribal roots that I probably need to learn more of myself. But this was a wonderful moment to learn more.
Hi, my name is Natalie Mendez, and I'm also a founder of HTL Think Forward. So yeah, me and Edward, we've known each other for 10 years, and we kind of started this venture earlier this year because of all the changes that have been happening. So it's like, we have the equipment, we have the contacts, let's do this. And we're really passionate about it. You know, I am an engineer as a female Hispanic, so I want to continue that, being the inspiration and motivation, especially for women. And thank you to Trisha. I've known Trisha since 2009, and you know, she's been an inspiration to me and to continue that work of getting more women in engineering. So that's why we started this nonprofit, and yeah, thank you so much, you guys, for all the stuff that you guys do.
You guys want to introduce yourselves?
These are the interpreters.
Please, you matter, please.
My name is Lolene. Grew up Mexican. Don't really know too much about my family history before that. I'm really interested. I'm just not sure how to go about it. I hear a lot of conflicting opinions, but I'm happy to be in this space. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, hi. My name is Jessica, and I'm really grateful to be here. I do not have Indigenous heritage from this continent, but I'm from the Midwest, from the Great Lakes region, so it's really nice to hear a familiar introduction. I'm grateful to be here.
Hi, I'm Ashley Elliott. I actually made this yesterday, as you now know. I'm from the Choctaw tribe from Oklahoma, and I moved here about 10 years ago, and I was searching for some more tribal people. I just felt like I didn't really have any connection with anyone, and my dad was a foster kid, so we didn't really grow up exposed to all of the traditional things. And so it's been a passion project of mine to find it, and I've been lucky to be able to find this group, and that's been just such a blessing to me. And to pair both signing and interpreting with Native and Indigenous things. I felt like it was like the best of both worlds, so I'm so happy to be here. It's like my passion, so thanks for having me.
So, for myself, sign language, of course, is crucial, and it can be a solution in this climate crisis, and it all comes back to corn. So I want to show you the American Sign Language sign for corn, and it's common around the world, you know, because you eat the corn on the cob in that way, but the Indigenous sign for corn is not the same. This is the sign that we use. And it's fascinating, the difference between the two signs, because when people see that, they think of food, right? It's a corn on the cob, you're eating it. But the Native sign because we use corn for clothing, we use corn for all kinds of things. We use corn as a tool, and so it's a more general sign. You can make corn milk, you can make all kinds of corn things. And how we sign it relates to how we use the corn, how we write the word relates to that, and that is all something that can come to bear in a world of climate change. And so that's something that I want to talk about related to STEM. But it is time for us to come to a close, so I thank you all for coming here today, for sharing with us in this sacred space. And STEM is so close to my heart. It brings us all together and creates these relationships of care, relationships of stewardship. So thank you all.